Alright, so this is the start of Chapter 10, the second cycle in our accounting class, second semester. Um, this is all of a partnership. A partnership is where you have a business with more than one person that owns the business. Whereas we did in the first cycle was just a sole proprietorship. One person owns a small business. We use the general journal and the basic accounting cycle to keep track of their accounting records. In a partnership, you're going to have a lot more transactions. It's going to be a larger corporation, maybe, or I'm sorry, a larger company, possibly even a corporation. So you're going to have more transactions throughout an accounting period, whether that be a month, a week, etc. What we're going to get started with first, though, is how to record. You're going to analyze transactions, and the first transaction we're going to learn about is buying merchandise on account from a vendor. The purchases journal is what we would use for that, and it says the purchases journal is only used for when we purchase merchandise from a vendor on account. There's two accounts that are affected. Just like the general journal, you're going to have the purchases account, which is debited and carries a normal debit balance, and you're also going to have the accounts payable account, the company whomever you bought your merchandise from. Again, remember that this is only when you buy on account from a vendor, which means we're buying merchandise up front and then we're agreeing to terms to pay it back at a later date. We might pay them in installments over a 3-month period, maybe a 6-month period if it's a super large purchase, maybe even a year-long period or multiple years. The purchases journal also uses a special amount column, which is a column in a journal that is used for frequently occurring transactions. Well, since the purchases journal, it's always going to be the accounts payable and purchases accounts that are affected. We only need one column, and we only need to enter that onto one line instead of like the general journal where we entered it on 2 lines. So let's take a look at the purchases journal here. You have your date. The account credited is going to be the accounts payable account from who you bought your merchandise from. So again, the business that you bought your merchandise from. You're going to have a purchasing number, which is going to be the purchasing number on the invoice. Post reference, again, is when we go to post it to the ledger at a later date, maybe in a day or a week. We're going to take that account number and we're going to put it into this column right here to prove that we posted it to our ledger. And finally, we have the special amount column. So you see the purchases is debited, accounts payable is credited. So we only need one column for this. And that's why, because every time it's going to go into these 2 accounts. We're going to include a page number for the accounting cycle as well. Pretty simple. So let's take a look at one of the invoices here. When you get an invoice, so we purchase products from a vendor, this being Crown Limited, we're going to pay them at a later date. We received it on November 2nd. The purchase number is P83, purchase number 83, to us, Omni Imports. We have the date of the purchase, the invoice number, the terms. So the terms are, we have 30 days to pay this back. And here's the account number, our account number to them in their accounting procedures. So you can see we bought 10, 12, 15, 15. This is the inventory number. This might be large wool sweaters, where this one might be extra large wool sweaters. So we're buying, looks like some inventory here. It gives a description of the inventory. Here's what the unit price is, and this is what each one costs. So one wool sweater is $53. Now when we go to resell this merchandise, we're going to mark it up. We're not going to sell it for $50 a unit, because then we would lose $3 every time we sold one. So our markup might be $6, or I'm sorry, we might sell it for $60, so therefore our markup would be $7, if that makes sense. We have to make money too. The total right here of each what we bought, and then our total of what we owe them. Okay, and this goes through the procedures of that. Once we get the invoice, what we do is we go to, maybe it comes in a box from UPS, and we're going to make sure that we did receive the amount that we ordered, and we're going to put a little check mark next to it once we've proven that, and we're also going to initial of who checked it. So here's the first transaction on November 2nd. We purchased merchandise on account from Crown Limited for the total price of $2,039.99 with the purchase invoice number of 83. And again, we got that right off here. Okay. Which accounts are affected? Again, purchases is always going to be debited. Accounts payable is always going to be credited, no matter what. Accounts payable is a liability account. Purchases is a cost account, which if you look on page 219, it gives you Omni's import chart of accounts, and you see the assets, liabilities, owner's equity, and cost accounts, operating accounts, expenses accounts. So on page 219, you can always refer back to for your chart of accounts and your account classifications. How has each classification changed? Costs are increased. Liabilities are increased. All right. We owe Crown Limited $2,039 within 30 days. And our costs of what it costs for us to run our businesses and sell our merchandise, they also go up. So again, we're going to debit purchases, and the liabilities or the accounts payable is credited. But they're both increased. So as we look at how to record this into our journal, our special journal, our purchases journal, we're going to make sure that we have the page number up here. We're going to write the date. We're going to write the vendor name, Crown Limited. We don't have to put accounts payable, Crown Limited. We know it's accounts payable already. So we're just going to put the name of the company here. The purchase number, which we got off of the invoice, and then the amount. And again, this says that purchases is debited, accounts payable is credited. So we only need to write this in here once. Oops. So once we're finished at the end of the month or end of the accounting cycle or end of the accounting period, looks like Omni goes month by month, we have each account that we purchase merchandise from, the purchase numbers, Pacific, Accent, Accent again. At the end of the month, we're going to total this. Of course, we're going to always include the single rule line here, which indicates that we need to add these amounts. We're going to put our total amount, and we're going to double rule at the bottom, just like we've done in past under general journals. Okay, as we do the work together is on page 228. It says using the current year, journalize these transactions on page 10 of the purchases journal. So first thing we know to do is to put this as page 10. It says on October 2nd, we purchased merchandise on account from Fabric Outlet for $1,230. Purchase number is 116. So we have Fabric Outlet, our purchase number, and the amount of $1,230. It also says that we purchased merchandise from Drapery Hardware for $480 under purchase number 117. Fabric Outlet on the 11th, purchase number 118 for $780. When we total this, October 31st is the end of our accounting period. Single rule, the amount, and double rule. And I want to show you something real quick, an easy way to quickly add this up. So if we're in our journal, and I'm going to go ahead and go through this with you. So you've downloaded this from my website. We're going to go ahead and put page 10. We're going to put the date, October 2nd. Fabric Outlet. Purchase number is 116. The amount is $1,230. Again, we don't have to write the month in again, because we're going to list the dates here. On the 7th, again, this is the work together on page 228, Drapery Hardware. Purchase number 117. $480. One thing is, if it's not showing both your double zeros, come up here and just format all of these cells. You select them here and choose the dollar sign. And that way it's done in the accounting. You notice that the accounting is up as far as the type of numbers that we want entered here. We want accounting. So now all of these cells are formatted. You don't have to put the dollar sign. It does it for us automatically. For example, the next transaction is $780. It's going to do the dollar sign and the cents for us. Purchase number was 118. Account is Fabric Outlet again. Now obviously we've added Fabric Outlet twice here, which means when we go to post it to our ledger, the account numbers, Fabric Outlet, whatever account number Fabric Outlet is, looks like we'll have that same number here once we post it to our ledger. So when we go to total this on the 31st is the end of our counting period. Leave that blank. Actually, we're going to put total here. Now to add this up very quickly and accurately, there's a button up here at the top called Auto Sum. And if I click this, excuse me, it'll take these cells and add them up automatically. If it's not the cells that you wanted selected, you simply select the cells that you want to add up. Now it says G7 through G9, which is column G, row 7 through row 9. These cells right here. If I just hit enter, it gives me that amount. Now, we have this dark thick line here already. I'm going to show you one more time how to add the borders of how we want it. So you have this button right here, which is our bottom border, or just our borders button. If we click this little arrow, you can come down and see we have top and double bottom border. So if I click that, we now have the bottom border and the top border. Notice how this is not as thick anymore, so we can go ahead and change that too, I believe. Let's go ahead, line style, a little thicker. There we go. If you saw how I did that, I went down to line style, chose the thicker one, and then it gives me this little paper clip, or I'm sorry, pencil, and I just select that one. So I'm done now. This is how it should look if we go back and take a peek to our PowerPoint here. This is how it should look, and that is the answer that we got, 2490. All right, great. So terms to review, make sure that you're familiar with these terms that I've talked about in this session, and also that are in the page 228, terms to review in your book. I hope this helps, and refer back to this as you work through this chapter.